Today, I am taking you on the introduction to cocoa and cocoa production in Nigeria and Africa. Introduction to cocoa and cocoa production in Nigeria and Africa, and we are starting right now. Ondo State is the largest producer of cocoa in Nigeria. Ondo State produces about 80,000 tons of cocoa annually. Nigeria produces 300,000 tons of cocoa annually. Other states that produce cocoa in large quantity are Ogun State, Delta State, Edo State, Akwa Ibom State, Cross River State, Osun State, Oyo State, and Ekiti State. The major states that produce cocoa, as I've said, are Ondo, Cross River, Ogun, Akwa Ibom, Ekiti, Delta, Osun, and Oyo State. Nigeria exports cocoa beans, whole or broken raw or roasted, to Netherlands. They also export to Germany. They also export to Indonesia. Nigeria also export to Belgium. They export to Malaysia. This timeline shows the production of cocoa beans in Nigeria from 2012 to 2013 to 2021 to 2022 and provides a forecast for 2022 and 2023. According to the report, Nigeria produced approximately 238,000 tons of cocoa beans in 2012 to 2013 and is expected to produce about 280,000 tons in 2022 to 2023. Now, the Ivory Coast and Ghana are by far the two largest producers of cocoa, accounting for more than 50% of the world's cocoa production. Côte d'Ivoire, that is the Ivory Coast, is the largest producer of cocoa in the world. They produce about over 2 million tons a year. About 75% of the land in Côte d'Ivoire is suitable for growing crops, and almost half of its citizens work in agriculture, including many children. Southwest Nigeria is one of the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. The region constitutes the dominant supplier of cocoa and hosts important cocoa farming communities in Nigeria. These rural agrarian communities are numerous in states such as Ondo, Osun, Ekiti, Ogun, and Oyo states. Cocoa was introduced to West Africa in the 19th century, according to reports, and its introduction to Nigeria is believed to have taken place around 1874 through the Spanish island Fernando Po, when a local chief established a plantation at Boni in the then eastern region. Tete Kwashi was a pre-independence Ghanaian agriculturist and the person directly responsible for the introduction of cocoa crops to Ghana, which today constitute one of the major export crops of the Ghanaian economy. It takes about 5 years from seed for a cocoa tree to grow, mature, and start producing cocoa pods. The beans grow in football-shaped pods on the trunk of the tree and from larger branches. With improved agricultural practices and new methods of growing crops today, cocoa can be grown in 2 to 3 years if you get a hybrid that have been worked on scientifically. Now, who invented chocolate? The history of chocolate begins its 4,000 years of history in ancient Mesoamerica, present-day Mexico, and the birthplace of chocolate. It's here that the first cocoa plants, the plant which chocolate is made from, were found. In 2021, top exporters of cocoa beans, whole or broken, raw or roasted, are Ecuador, followed by Nigeria, then Netherlands, then Malaysia, then Dominican. Ivory Coast overtook Ghana as the world's leading producer of cocoa beans in 1878 and today is highly dependent on the crop, which accounts for 40% of national export income. Now, Ghana is the second largest cocoa exporter in the world after Ivory Coast. Ovaltine is a kind of drink, is one of the better cocoa beverages on the Nigerian market, with a texture and taste so smooth. Its barley malt taste is arguably the most noticeable of the cocoa beverages on the list. Thankfully, this taste is anything but overwhelming and carefully complements the rich cocoa taste of the drink. The major challenges experienced by cocoa industries are inconsistency in production, low yield, pest and disease infestation, high cost of acquiring equipment, increase in production sustainability when considering modified varieties, cost of managing crop, organizing chain, and cost of quality. The problems that cocoa farmers or cocoa farming or cocoa production face is typically similar to the problem that other crops face also. It was why has cocoa production declined in Nigeria? Cocoa production declined in Nigeria because it was hit by factors such as an aging workforce, disinterest by younger people in farming, aging trees without replacement, reliance on old varieties with long periods before producing fruits, climate change, effects on cocoa plantations, lack of incentives, difficulty in accessing finance and other inputs. Is cocoa farming profitable in Nigeria? That's a big question. However, with the right support and investment, cocoa farming can be a viable, profitable business venture for farmers in Nigeria and in Africa. Cocoa remains a relevant cash crop in Nigeria and is produced largely by small-scale farmers, dominant in the country's southwest region. Cocoa production is a highly labor-intensive venture. It is an important cash crop, providing income to more than 4.5 million families worldwide. Yet, the families who grow cocoa face challenges. Ondo State, located in the southwest sub-region of Nigeria, is the largest producer of cocoa. Many parts of the states are known to largely produce cocoa. Top importers of cocoa beans, whole or broken or roasted, is number 1, Netherlands, followed by USA, followed by Malaysia, followed by Germany, followed by Indonesia, and then France. Now, who is the person who introduced cocoa to Africa? The credit of having first brought the cocoa tree from the New World to the African tropics undoubtedly goes to the Portuguese. They are reputed to have planted cocoa on the island of Saint-Thome of French Gabon as back as 1822. Now, the important question, how much is 1 kilogram of cocoa today? 1 kilogram of cocoa today costs $2.69 or $2.70. It varies, so you have to check for the price from time to time if you want to sell, because the price changes from time to time. Now, West Africa is the world's largest cocoa producing area. About 70% of the entire world's cocoa comes from West Africa, which is home to about 75% of all the cocoa farms globally. The biggest cocoa producing countries are Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Nigeria. Most cocoa is produced in West Africa, as said, and Ivory Coast and Ghana are major players. Which country has the best quality of cocoa? Ecuador is that country. There are many countries that produce cocoa in the world, but not all cocoas are the same. There are some that are greater or lesser quality, suitably for making derivatives or ideal for the most demanding palates. Currently, Ecuador is the country where the highest quality cocoa is found. The largest cocoa company. In 2021, Wrigley Confectionery was a leading chocolate and cocoa manufacturer worldwide, with net sales of 18 billion US dollars. Ferrero Group and Mondelez rounded out the top 3 companies, both exceeding 10 billion US dollars in net sales. Now, which cocoa is the best cocoa all over the world? Rare cocoa varieties such as Nacional and Porcelana have been found in parts of northern South America, and many people regard these as some of the best cocoa beans in the world. The Caribbean island of Trinidad only grows Trinitario cocoa, a highly flavorful type of cocoa produced or developed on the island hundreds of years ago. Now, is cocoa a fruit or a vegetable? Cocoa beans are technically not beans or legumes, but rather the seeds of the fruit of the Theobroma cacao tree. The pod-shaped fruit is botanically classified as bucket-like, that is berry-like, and each pod produces approximately 35 to 50 seeds, surrounded by a sweet pulp. The countries that buy the most of cocoa are Netherlands and many other countries like that. Now, what climate does cocoa grow in? Cocoa trees only prosper under specific conditions, including fairly uniform temperatures, high humidity, abundant rain, nitrogen-rich soil, and protection from wind. In short, cocoa trees thrive in rainforests. Chocolate is now grown around the globe, typically within 10 degrees north and south of the equator. The state in Nigeria that produces the most cocoa beans is Ondo State, as mentioned earlier. Now, where can cocoa be sold? There are many buyers and sellers of cocoa in the international market, and I'm going to come up with another video just devoted to that. Where does cocoa grow naturally? The cocoa tree is native to the Amazon basin in South America, with evidence suggesting that cocoa was first domesticated here before being farmed in Central America. Now the cocoa tree is cultivated in many different countries all over the world, as long as it meets the ideal conditions for the plant. How long does cocoa take to be harvested? The season to harvest the cocoa pods arrives at dry period, around 6 months after the bloom, and lasts from 10 to 14 days, between May and July, and then from October to March. Now, the question comes that, is Nigeria still exporting cocoa? Yes. Cocoa, as you know, is Nigeria's top agricultural export. In 2021, in the first quarter, 122.89 billion was earned from the export of raw cocoa beans and cocoa products. That is 122.89 billion naira. Beg your pardon, it's in naira. Now, we have mentioned the vegetation that cocoa grow best in Nigeria and the places. Now, who named the cocoa tree? The botanist in 1737, Carl Linnaeus, gave the cocoa tree its name, Theobroma cacao, from Greek theos, God, broma, food. The species is divided into 3 groups: Criollo, Forastero, and Trinitario. Now, the best national cocoa farmer is Mr. Bismarck Fouachier from Sefwi-Asafo in the Western North region, and he has emerged as the 2022 national best cocoa farmer. What is the scientific name of cocoa? Theobroma cocoa. Now, how many times does a cocoa tree produce in a year? A mature tree may produce 6,000 flowers in a year, yet only 20 pods. Cocoa trees bear 20 to 30 large egg-shaped pods per year, each of which are about 20 centimeters long, and they ripen to a rich orange-red color. The cocoa tree flowers and bears fruit throughout the entire year. How many times can you harvest cocoa in a year? Most countries have 2 periods of peak production per year, a main harvest and a smaller harvest. Cocoa farmers use long hand-held steel tools to reach the pods and cut them without wounding the soft bark of the tree. How long do cocoa trees live? A young cocoa tree grows rapidly, but it won't begin to produce beans until it's about 5 years old. A cocoa tree can live up to 100 years. Wow! But most trees only provide marketable cocoa beans for about 25 years. So after 25 years, what do? You replant. When you get to 20 years, you start replanting, so that by the time you get to 25 years, you do away with the old one and plant new ones. This is a problem with olden day farmers. They keep thinking that the plant will keep on. So after 25 years, the cocoa production drops. Then instead of them to replant 5 years before, because it takes 5 years to start to plant. So after every 20 years of harvesting, you should start thinking of planting, so that by the time the cocoa tree or cocoa plant reaches 25 years and production drops, the new one you planted 5 years ago will start producing again, so you can cut the old one down and the new one will continue producing. So Nigeria exports cocoa beans to Netherlands, Malaysia, United States, as mentioned. How much is cocoa in Nigeria? The price of cocoa in Nigeria is not much. Cocoa price in Nigeria is the price of cocoa beans that is quoted in Naira. The cocoa price are the lowest in the world and range between 1,000 to 1,500 Naira per kilogram. How much does the cocoa farmer make? Fair Trade and True Price recently calculated a living wage for cocoa farmers in the Côte d'Ivoire at $6,133 per year. However, they also reported that the average farmer income was just $2,707 per year. You convert that to Naira, maybe at 900 Naira or at 850 Naira or thereabouts, and then you get the value. How does Ghana make so little money from the cocoa manufacturing of chocolate? The increased input, labor, fertilizer, and pesticides for replanting land amounts to a higher production cost. It cannot be adjusted by price setting. Cocoa producers have no control over price. They are price takers. So the higher production cost reduces the profit made by cocoa farmers. Now, what are the 4 types of cocoa? There are 4 main varieties of the cocoa. Please, before I go on, I want you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. This is the Olugbenga YouTube channel where I bring you information on culture, how to make money, and how to do business in Nigeria or any other place in the world. So subscribe to this channel and watch my over 600 videos, and you are going to be glad that they share this video with other people too, so that they can benefit. So there are 4 main varieties of cocoa. The cocoa plant. The first one is Forastero, Criollo, Trinitario, and Nacional. So this is where I'm going to stop about the introduction to cocoa. I'm going to continue in the next video where I talk about how to export cocoa beans from Nigeria, a step-by-step guide, and that video is coming up after this one. I'm going to see you soon. As I said earlier, please subscribe and please share the link of this video with others, and also keep coming back to this channel, and you are going to become better in every area of your life. Bye for now. Until I come your way again next time. This video popping up right now is the next you have to see. So go ahead and watch this video that is popping up right now.